Leondra Foster was killed late night, January 12th, 2017, in her Flatbush, Brooklyn apartment by her abusive, manipulative boyfriend, SWers Moses, who was a registered sex offender. She was the kind of person that would take care of everybody and literally was just a loving person. She had an infectious smile and laugh. In January of 2017, police found the 32-year-old victim's torso and other body parts at a waste transfer station in Hunts Point, Bronx. Then they found her severed head, feet, and hands in the freezer of her shared apartment with SWers Moses. He was later acquitted in 2019. How could a registered sex offender get a slap on the wrist? Why was SWers Moses so protected?
Hey, word on the street, I'm a suspect. Hanging with the killers in the projects. Taylor on a barrel, keep quiet. Catch a nigga slipping from behind. OG, Bobby, Johnson.
Hey y'all, hey. I go by Judy, and we are back with another SW and true crime video. I just want to thank y'all for all the support and love on my previous videos, as well as my previous true crime video on Jamel and Tim, which I will link in the cards for you to watch. I was thinking, y'all, would y'all be interested if I would do kind of like a review, or like we sit and watch a TV show together? I got the idea from Kennedy Myers. I love her channel, and she does she watches different Oxygen. I think it's like 1 or 2 shows that she watches. So I was thinking we could possibly watch the Playboy Murders, which is on ID, like the Discovery for Murder channel. I think it's like ID Discovery True Crime or something like that. There's another show called Accident, Suicide, or Murder, Final Moments, or Sleeping with Death. So comment what y'all think. Comment if you're into that. I think it'll be super cool, especially the Playboy Murders. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll be watching it together. So let me know. I just want to give my condolences to the family, and I mean absolute no disrespect. Everything that I'm stating in this case is public information, and you can find everything in the description below. Warning, this week's case has some mentions of sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, sex trafficking, extreme violence, as well as human trafficking and sex trafficking related to minors. So if this is something that you do not want to hear, I completely understand, and I will catch you in another video. This case is really, really gruesome. I know I say that about all my cases, but this one, y'all, blew my mind. It really did. And as I stated previously, I will link all my resources below so you can join in on the conversation. I also want to state, as I state every single time, it's extremely dangerous for everybody, not just S workers. All right, let's get into our next case. Leondra Foster was born March 8th, 1984. So happy belated birthday to you. A lot of the information was missing about her, but I will try my best to kind of fill in the gaps and shine some light. I assume that she was from New York, but according to her little sister, Shaniqua Figueroa, on the GoFundMe page was made, she stated, Leondra was a nurturing and protective mother, an adored and thoughtful daughter, a loving and supportive big sister, an amazing and beautiful granddaughter, a special niece, a giving aunt, a jovial cousin, a loyal friend, and an overall great human being. Leondra was the type of person that wanted to take care of and help everyone. She had an infectious smile and laugh. She was the fun one and a joy to be around. She enjoyed music, loved to cook, and had aspirations of eventually studying culinary arts and owning her own restaurant. She had her whole life ahead of her. I'm not quite sure when Leondra started dating Marie Moses, but Marie Moses was a registered sex offender. So who is this Marie Moses? Marie Moses, or Marie Barfield Moses, was born July 27th, 1976, and lived in Brooklyn, New York. I think he was born and raised there as well. He was convicted of soliciting a minor, I believe they were only 16, into full-service sex work in 2006. There was actually 2 different accounts of this. Such a weird pedophilic man. But anyway, Marie was known to traffic minors and women in New York. He also played, and I wholeheartedly say this, played as a pimp. Sources say that Marie also went by Sugar Bear, Bear, and Daddy, and would call himself a gangster pimp. But in reality, he was just a loser abuser who took advantage of women by promising them love and relationships. Marie would pursue women under the ruse that he was going to start like a reality of just this beautiful family, date them, and just be overall like romantically involved with these women. But in reality, Mr. Sugar Bear would tell these women that they needed to do full service sex work or traffic themselves for him. And that's how that they could prove that they really love him. Men. Just kidding, but like, get a load of that. You have to traffic yourself to show you that I love you, to make you money and not me. Ooh, child. So I know some of y'all have no idea or maybe getting mixed up about the lingo or conversation, but let me break it down for you and shine some light on sex trafficking versus sex work. So let's first talk about human trafficking. Also known as modern day slavery, human trafficking is the illegal trade in human beings through recruitment or abduction by means of force, fraud, or coercion. Y'all, it's so hard for me to say that word, coercion. For the purposes of forced labor, debt bondage, or sexual exploitation. Human trafficking victims are often forced through sexual, physical, and psychological violence to perform work under slavery-like conditions. Tactics used by recruiters, traffickers, and their associates are often the same tactics used by batterers and can mirror dynamics of domestic violence. As you can see in this case, Marie used psychological tactics, promising love and a happy ending to his victims, which a lot of abusers do to keep their victims' interest. Take a look at this chart. On one side are adults who are knowing and willing participants in S work, whether through direct exploitation because of survival, which is survival S work, or by choice. They use sex work or participating in full service sex work as a means of income. On the other end of the spectrum are human trafficking victims. Those people are forced into the sex industry against their will by some measure of fraud, force, or coercion. The huge and main difference is choice and free will. Majority, and I wish all y'all, but majority of S workers choose to do so because that's a choice they decide to make, while the latter had somebody else making their choice about their body. In my opinion, with having friends in full service S work, a pimp isn't necessary. The people who do seek after a pimp are seeking street smarts or protection or a type of knowledge that they did not know going into it. I have plenty of full service S work friends who have never had a pimp because they are just knowledgeable in the field and they just rely on their community. Now, don't get me wrong, S workers can be victims of human trafficking. In fact, S workers and minors are often targeted because people see us as objects and simply things to buy and trade like Pokemon cards. Side note, and when I mean side note, it's very much an off-topic side note. But when I think of a pimp, I automatically, or like the demeanor of a pimp, my brain automatically goes to a pimp named Slickback from Boondocks. Like, just how he was acting. Like, if y'all don't even know how pimps are supposed to act, or a gangster pimp how supposed to act, as Marie said he was, go look at a pimp named Slickback on YouTube. Like, very, yeah. Anyway, according to Merriam-Webster, the meaning of a pimp is a criminal who is associated with, usually exerting control over, and lives off the earnings of one or more S workers. Sources say for 15 years, Marie was running a sex ring, sexually assaulting, psychologically torturing, and beating women who worked for him to submit, acting as a pimp, manipulating them into giving him their money. He even got his victims to tattoo his name, Marie, somewhere on their body. I want to say this was a tactic of ownership. Like, he needed to feel like he owned them. And I feel like by putting, sometimes in different cases where people are like in human trafficking, like they want other people to know that they're owned by them. So I feel like this was his weird way of doing that. If you disobeyed him, you were met with ruthless violence. For example, Mr. Bear allegedly tased one victim who tried to stop working as an S worker for him until she agreed to get back to work. He slashed another victim with a razor blade on her back and arms, then poured lemon juice on her wounds. He also put a shotgun in the mouth of another victim and threatened that he would kill her and her child if she would stop working for him. He even beat and whipped a victim with an extension cord and threatened to rub salt in her wounds. Leondra was sadly coaxed and basically pushed, pimped, and pressured into sex work. Family stated that she would literally do anything for her child and her family. He threatened to kill her and kill off her whole family if she wouldn't pursue S work. She was simply terrified. She was reduced from a happy, loving, and smart woman to the girlfriend of an evil, abusive monster. She constantly tried to please and gratify Marie, and finally, in the end, she paid the ultimate price, her life. In the late night of January 12th or early morning of January 13th, 2017, after Leondra met with a client, Marie decided to beat her to death. We are not sure why or if she was refusing to work, but he literally beat her until she was unconscious. At some point in that time frame or the following day, he allegedly used a knife and a saw to dismember Leondra's body into at least 9 pieces in the apartment that they once shared together. He then stashed her hands, head, and feet inside of the freezer next to his groceries. Marie then disposed Leondra's torso and limbs in the Bronx at a sanitation station on January 17th, 2017 around 4:45 a.m. I'm guessing he kept the bigger areas of the body in a freezer or somehow preserved them so his neighbors couldn't smell it, because he literally killed her the 12th or the 13th. So this had to be like 4 or 5 days of that body just sitting. So I honestly don't know. Some say that he possibly could have eaten them, but there's no evidence of that Dahmer theory. So yeah. Marie then intimidated a sanitation worker who he knew into helping him get rid of her remains at the Bronx waste station. Just a bully. Imagine you going to work and you see someone you grew up with. You speak to them, hey, how you doing? And they intimidate you. They threaten you to help them dispose a body. That is the worst work day ever. Later that day, her remains were found and police began investigating immediately. It makes me wonder if his acquaintance or the person that helped him tipped them off, because it's like immediately they found the body. Upon further investigation, the detectives determined that a person involved in the disposal of the remains was using this specific Brooklyn telephone number, which law enforcement agents directly connected to Mr. Somarie Moses. I'm guessing that they checked like the phone lines of everybody in the area that early morning, and I guess coincided and checked down the list of all the people that were criminals. The officers also found that he was a sex offender and reviewed sex offender registration records to obtain his address, the place that they believed that the crime was committed. Investigators also learned that an unidentified woman called 911 from inside the same building at approximately 11:36 p.m. on January 16th, 2017 to report that she was being sexually assaulted. So basically, the night before he disposed Leondra's body parts, he was sexually assaulting someone else. Gosh. On January 18th, 2017, Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Gray of the Bronx County District Attorney's Office filed an application for a warrant authorizing the installation and use of a pen register and trap and trace device to obtain cellular site location information and precision location or GPS information for Somarie's phone for the purpose of locating him. The warrant was approved, and officers of the NYPD's Violent Felony Apprehension Squad went to the once home of Leondra and Somarie to arrest him on January 20th, 2017.
Residents of this building on Erasmus Street in East Flatbush are concerned for their safety.
Do you feel safe knowing that?
No, I'm not. I'm not feeling safe at all.
Especially not after waking to the news that a tenant in their building had been arrested. The charge? Concealment of a human corpse.
I feel very angry because, this kind of thing shouldn't be happening.
Police came to this building Saturday to arrest Somarie Moses after sources say video and phone evidence linked him to the female body parts found in a garbage transfer station in the Bronx last week. A torso and leg were discovered by a loader operator at the Metropolitan Transfer Station in Hunts Point. Police later found 2 arms with the hands missing. The victim has not been identified.
I heard about that. I didn't think it was going to hit so close to home, but damn sure did.
The 40-year-old suspect is a registered sex offender who was arrested for promoting the prostitution of an underage girl a decade ago. His long criminal record also includes arrests for rape, robbery, and a non-fatal shooting. Now, residents tell us at least part of this building is used for transitional housing, and they feel not enough screening is done before new tenants are placed here.
When the officers rang the doorbell, Somarie exited the apartment through the rear door. According to documents, law enforcement subsequently found Leondra's head, hands, and foot with a tattoo saying Somarie in a deep freezer inside the apartment. Detective Skolsky observed what appeared to be blood both on the front door of the apartment as well as the living room wall. In addition, he noticed a large white stain on the wood floor of the living room, which he believed to be consistent with bleach stains. So when you bleach something, it usually leaves like a white, huge stain. So he automatically knew like this was a cover-up. They also searched his Lexus and took his phone for confirmation. He was only taken into custody for concealment of human remains. Testifying in his own defense, Somarie admitted to dismembering the 32-year-old's body, but denied committing the murder. He was scheduled for sentencing on December 18th, 2017, and was facing only up to 4 years in prison. And yes, I said only 4 years as a registered sex offender.
And Joe, just moments ago, they did arraign 40-year-old Somarie Moses. He is charged with concealment of a corpse and tampering with evidence. But as the Assistant District Attorney said in court today, we expect elevation of these charges when the medical examiner's report is final. He has been in trouble before. He's in a lot more serious trouble right now. This story, of course, started with the chilling discovery this past week of at a Bronx garbage transfer station of body parts belonging to a young woman. She remains unidentified, but police started investigating that and it led to the arrest early this morning of 40-year-old Somori Moses. Police found additional evidence, including additional body parts in his freezer, according to police sources at his Flatbush home. He is a registered sex offender. He has a record that includes promoting prostitution of a 16-year-old girl, also rape allegations against him. In this case, he is charged only, as we said, with concealment of a corpse and tampering with evidence. But of course, prosecutors expect more serious charges, perhaps even murder charges against him when the medical examiner's report is done. Again, he was held without bail at his arraignment earlier, just a few moments ago here at Bronx Criminal Court. Reporting live from the Bronx, Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Judy Clark, Somori's lawyer, claims that he was using methamphetamines hours prior, and Leondra was assaulted by a client that she met with in their place of residence in Flatbush. Clark contended that Leondra was brutally beaten by a violent client and succumbed to blunt force head injuries after she became disoriented and fell in the bathroom. Somori, she said, beat up her attacker and panicked when Leondra died. They threw that woman like she was a piece of trash, said Clark. But at least Mr. Moses admits what kind of person he is. Y'all, what kind of defense is that? As a lawyer, you're going to say your client admitted like he is a trash man. Lawyers these days. Anyway, Assistant District Attorney Sabiha Madni said what happened to Leondra was simpler than Somori's explanation. She contended that he routinely hurt her if she broke his rules, threatened her, and made her have sex with multiple men in a day. And finally, on January 12, 2017, he beat her to death. He cut her up into 9 pieces and threw her into the trash, Madani said. He wants you to believe that the other injuries happened in some mysterious way. Phone records showed that she was still alive when her client left, and an autopsy determined many of her severe injuries happened while she was still alive. Medical examiners also reported that she died from blunt force trauma. The prosecutor said Somori sent her text messages saying that he would make her eyes close forever. He also threatened her by saying, "I will get you, not how you expect and not when you expect." That's a clear threat. Death threat. Anyway, the lawyer stressed the amount of piling evidence against Somori and how he exploited her body every day for profit, and he even admitted to that. He kept her in check through violence. He beat her. The key witness was his acquaintance that helped him. Leondra's relatives who watched the proceedings were warned in advance that they and the jury would see photos of Leondra's dismembered corpse. Some moved their seats so they wouldn't have to see these gruesome pictures. They stressed of how he threw her body in the trash. Like her body parts. It's like she wasn't even a person to him. Like she was nothing. She was garbage, stuff you find on the side of the road. Like, this supposed to be your girlfriend? Like I said, this is gruesome, and it's just like mind-blowing to me because it gets worse. The verdict came shortly after closing arguments in Brooklyn Supreme Court in the murder trial of Somori Moses, 45, in the 2017 slaying of Leondra Foster. The jury rejected the murder verdict and instead convicted Somori of criminally negligent homicide and concealment of a corpse. He faces up to a prison term of 4 years on the criminally negligent homicide. The Brooklyn DA office declined to comment on the verdict, but Leondra's family was outraged. Her sister said, "Oh my God, it's not right." She said this over and over to every media outlet, and you could just feel her outrage. Clark, his lawyer, said, "What he did shocks the conscience of everybody in the courtroom," but he admitted to it. The dismemberment does not prove him without a reasonable doubt of murder. I call BS, y'all. You telling me as a registered sex offender, you'd go through all this work of dismembering, I can't even say it, y'all, dismembering a whole body that you claim somebody else killed because you're afraid of the police coming inside because you have a gun that you're not supposed to because you're a sex offender. Let's please be serious for a second. Like, let's be serious for a minute. Who was on this jury? Negligent homicide? 4 years? And even his lawyer, like, her argument was not strong for me. The lawyer literally stated in the courtroom he had no motive to kill his moneymaker. Like, this made y'all believe that? Leondra's family was absolutely disgusted and upset about this lousy sentence, and that every time she tried to leave, he threatened to kill her. To make matters worse, y'all, like, it's like, but wait, there's more. In 2019, Moses was acquitted on second-degree murder charge. The question is why? The man had her whole head in his freezer. Come on, evidence is right there. Bloodstains, bleach. While the prosecutors at the 2019 trial said that he forced Leondra into sex work, the 9-count federal indictment unsealment against him alleged a more sprawling pattern of abuse. The counts were for each sex trafficking victim or human trafficking victim, so about 8 or 9 people came forward to testify against him. I believe more and more people came out as they found out that he was about to be released. But in the newly unsealed federal 10-count indictment, count 10 specifies that SWers did knowingly and intentionally murder an individual, and that the defendant with malice aforethought did unlawfully kill Leondra Foster. Federal prosecutors also say that they have evidence from 2 new victims witnessing that SWers confessed to the killing and dismemberment of Leondra Foster. SWers' arrest in the federal case came just a day before he was eligible to be released from state prison. Thank the good heavens, y'all. Mans was like, oh, psych, return those cuffs, brother. Anyway, this indictment is thought to be the first use of the federal statute criminalizing murder in the course of sex trafficking. SWers was arraigned in Brooklyn federal court Tuesday and ordered held without bail after pleading not guilty. Now, as of 2023, on May 24th, 2022, he faces a fresh murder charge by the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Eastern District. He's also facing the federal charges related to sex trafficking of 8 women, including minors, since 2003. Moses faces life and is eligible for the death penalty. As usual, I will offer my tips that may be helpful. For starters, if you are in a domestic violence situation, these are like some very helpful tips that could come to help, I hope. Know where the safe exits are in your home, whether it's a window, elevator, stairwell. Discuss the situation with a trusted neighbor, family member, anybody if you can. Ask them to call 911 if they hear a disturbance. So that would be for like if your neighbor. And find a code word to use with them if you need the police. Always keep a packed bag ready and know where you could go to be safe if you have to leave, even if you don't think you need to leave. In this case, Leondra told her family about the situation, but she decided to stay. Next, never let your guard down. I know I say this almost every case, but it's still so important to be vigilant, y'all. If you feel uneasy, please do not ignore your gut feeling. Tell someone about what you're going through. Tell the police, your family, your friends, other people in the SWers community. Just share what you're going through. It could save your life. Lastly, never let anyone pressure you to do anything you don't want to do. It is your body and your choice to make decisions on what you want to do. If someone is pressuring you, please know that you do not have to. It may seem impossible for you to get out of that situation, but it is very, very possible, and you can live your own successful life, and I believe in you. According to the 2017 statistic, 24.9 million people are victims of forced labor. 4.8 million people are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by human trafficking, accounting for 71% of all victims. 3.8 million adults are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation. 1 million children are trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation. As for this case, more information is coming out as time goes on, and being that they had to retry him after his short little 2-year sentence. I can't find when that new trial is, but he is being tried for his 8 sex trafficking counts, as well as the homicide of Leondra Foster. He could possibly face life, which in this case is so deserving. And I never usually ever say that, but this is deserving because he really thought he was gonna get away with it. You thought. Researching this case, there was hardly any information about the case, Leondra. It was a desert. It was nothing out there, y'all. And I don't know, it kind of made me feel some type of way. If you heard me discuss this on my live, I was talking about how it just hurts to look up cases and you find nothing. But I go on true crime cases because I watch true crime all the time, and people have these detailed reports of like their family and how they were, and there's nothing out there because people don't care to cover the lives and the stories of S workers, and it sucks. Even my friend Brad, that is she lives in New York. She never really knew about this case. She never really knew about the details in this case, and this happened right near her. And I just find that so sad. It's a lot of cases that we do not know. I ultimately had to do a deep dive and snoop, and thankfully I did find a bit of information for this case. So I'm sorry if it is a bit short this time. Leondra, I hope you are truly, truly at peace. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me with another SW and True Crime video. Make sure you check out my other true crime cases. For some reason, y'all, the views differ drastically when I cover black and brown cases versus my other victims. I'll probably put like a comparison here. I know that happens to other true crime YouTubers. I see them talk about it all the time, but when I don't know, it's different from when you do it. So now I'm seeing it and I'm like, oh my God, like it's a huge difference. So just make sure you watch them, show me some love, leave a like. Cause yeah, it's crazy to see. But anyway, make sure you leave a like here, comment what you think about this case, cause this was a crazy one, okay? Make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I'm posting next. But other than that, I will see y'all a lot this month. Y'all gonna be seeing me a lot this month. So yeah, comment what case you want me to do next. I think I have a Kara Nichols case lined up next. So I guess I'll see y'all then. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Bye.